At a risk of sounding insensitive, that's a spicy snack. Lunch bit back. It's all jokes to these people. That's what most pain and suffering is in this realm to people, unless it's happening to them. If they're suffering, then it's an entirely different story. Then they don't treat it as jokes, but it's all fun, games, and jokes. I'm going to shift gears here. Let's see. Let's go over to this here. What did Jesus claim Earth was? Mud Fossil University. Remember this guy? He's the feather boy. Roger, the feather boy. I think his name's Roger. 2 years ago, this popped up on YouTube. It was recommended to me for some reason. I don't know why, but it just popped up earlier. And I clicked and kept the tab open. I didn't really watch it, but Mud Fossil University, the feather boy. Roger.
Okay, mes amis, I told you I was looking for the meaning of life, so let's go cut right to the chase.
Here he goes and grabs a feather. He's got to point at the screen with a stupid feather.
These are supposedly the secret sayings that the living, speaking Jesus spoke to Didymus Judas Thomas, who recorded them. That is doubting Thomas.
I might be the only one on earth that is annoyed by him using a feather to point at words on his screen. He does this all the time. I couldn't watch his channel just because of this. His voice is annoying, but the feather thing is just really, there's something about it that I really don't like.
He was Jesus's scribe. He listened to what he said, and he wrote down what he told him to write down. And let's just start with number one. First thing it says, whoever discovers these sayings will not taste death. And what are these sayings? These are from the Nag Hammadi library. Well, what is that? The Nag Hammadi library these are Gnostic.
The Nag Hammadi, nag him, not me. I'll say that, nag him, not me. The Nag Hammadi. I mean, these people hype stuff up so it's just at the top of the mountain, and it isn't.
And they had to hide in the desert and hid these scrolls in these jars, and they were discovered right after World War II.
They had to hide them because God was on their side, but God wouldn't protect them, apparently. They had to hide themselves and hide these in jars, clay jars or pots or something in a fucking cave. It's funny to me because I remember thinking as a child, why were they afraid? Why were the disciples afraid? Why were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which were not the disciples that wrote the Gospels? Who were they? They were anonymous using pen names. Why were they afraid of persecution? If God's on your side, why couldn't God protect you from evil? God's all powerful, right? So why wouldn't God protect them from evil? They had to hide. If you have God on your side, you have to hide who you are, your name, your face, your identity, hide somewhere, hide everything in caves. Like, why? God's on your fucking side. What are you afraid of? If God has your back, why the fuck would you be afraid at all? It doesn't add up, of course. But none of this shit adds up. People just read it and say, well, this is this. And they never stop to think, well, does it make sense? Does it make any sense? They read it like they're in a fucking trance. Wake up.
This is the really crazy thing about this. Nobody knew any about this. Not a word about it.
Nobody knew. Oh, it's real crazy. The Matrix does shit like this to fool people, and it works like a charm. I'm going to ask the Christians that are tuned in, who were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? They weren't disciples. The Bible was written decades after the death of Jesus, if he existed at all. But who were they? And why do you believe anonymous people that wrote things thousands of years ago? Most Christians would say, what do you mean? They'd say, Stephen, I thought Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were disciples. No, they weren't. The writers of the gospel weren't even around. Jesus never met them. Like you're buying hearsay at best. And then something's hidden in a cave and you're just like, well, this is real. Came out of these old clay pots hidden in a fucking cave. So what? I could hide something right now and it could be found 1,000 or 2,000 years from now. I could write anything. Does it make it true? Do you have a critical mind at all? All true thought is critical. When people say, oh, Stephen, you're so critical. Well, a critical mind is a good thing. To be critical and skeptical and analyze things, not just read and believe or hear and believe and nod your head going, yep, got to be true. Somebody wrote it down. Who gives a shit what was written down? Prove it. How about that? Prove it. Prove it in more than words on paper, papyrus, and an old fucking scroll. Prove it. How about that? Prove it. Translated by Stephen Patterson and Marvin Meyer. Well, Stephen Patterson, Stephen with a PH here, you might have done a decent translation, but you should have spent your life doing something more meaningful than that. Come on, Stephen. You're giving Stevens a bad name. Trying to give me a bad name.
Word about this until just after World War II. Not only the Nag Hammadi, but the Dead Sea Scrolls, which changed a lot as to what we were taught about religion. Not necessarily.
Listen to this character. Yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi, they found some old shit written down. Great. Does that mean it's automatically true? Like, how does that factor in? I don't know how people arrive at, well, it's old, it must be true. They found something old. Well, they might have even hoaxed it. It might even be fake, like the fake Lucy, the fake evolution shit that's all been fake that they claim. And it's all pig bones and deformed things and fake bones. There's no evolutionary steps that they found between man and a chimpanzee or some tiny ape creature. It's all fake. It's all hoaxes. So it's old. How could it? Oh, it's old. It must be true. Is it really, though? Just because something's old doesn't make it true. There's old people alive today. Doesn't mean that they have any wisdom. There's old people that don't know jack shit. They don't know anything about this world.
Not necessarily change religion. Change what we were told was the meaning of religion. Well, what is the meaning of religion? And what is the earth like? And what is everything? Jesus said, know what is in front of your face. Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. You have to look, and then boop, it's going to pop. There is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing buried that will not be raised. Well, let's talk about the buried stuff. And the hidden stuff is being revealed right now. It's just falling like raindrops.
Well, the best part is nothing changes in reality in the world. It just keeps getting worse. So people just keep saying they're finding stuff as the realm gets worse, degrades more into hell. More and more, it gets worse and worse. Maybe you should look at that. Might be wiser to look at that and look at that evidence and look at the ones speaking about that